when Eric was saying about when someone dies, when a bad person dies, and like the world gets a bit more balanced, like this way, it really just reminded me of like how the Force works in Star Wars, which is weird. Hey, instead of the rise of Skywalker, it's the rise of Trish Walker.
Shut up.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Matt. No, I'm not. Fuck. Welcome to our spoiler review of Jessica Jones Season 3. If you haven't watched it yet, we suggest you go watch it. But from here on out, we are going to be talking about in-depth spoilers. So go away and come back and watch this when you've seen it. So, Season 3.
Yep.
Good season.
It was, thankfully. Because Season 2 did not do much for me.
I liked it on the whole, but it wasn't close to Season 1.
No. I think that was all due to like David Tennant's performance as Kilgrave, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Watching Season 2, I did delving into like that family route. I was just like...
Yeah, the whole thing with her mum, which was essentially the bulk of it, it didn't work for me that much, and if that didn't work for you, then the whole series wouldn't really work for you. So, yeah, Season 3 picked it up. You get a lot more of that Jessica and Trish dynamic, and there's plenty of new additions as well.
This season was a lot more unpredictable than the first two, I'd say, because it went down a route we weren't entirely expecting, like until even probably 3 or 4 episodes until the end.
Yeah, it felt like, I think the first few episodes, and I think I have this with most seasons of Jessica Jones, maybe with all 3, is it feels a little bit like it's just meandering at the start, and you're sort of like, okay, which direction is this going in? But then, as soon as Salinger enters the picture,
yeah,
it picks up.
At first I didn't know what to think about Salinger, because they went down the route of having the bad guy be someone without powers.
Yeah.
So he couldn't really compare to Jessica Jones in the physical aspect.
I liked him, like, from the get-go. Like, the first time you meet him and he does that whole acting for the cameras and, you know, he rings the police and he's, like, pretending to be all scared.
Oh, no, and that's what I mean, though, because the first couple of times you get, like, a broad idea of what he's about, but you don't really see how he can basically uphold a whole season as the big bad.
Okay.
But then, obviously, you learn more about him and he shows that his powers aren't, like, super strong or super athletic.
Yeah.
It's all, like, mind games and having a knowledge of the system kind of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what Jessica Jones has always been, hasn't it? Like, none of the villains have really matched her physically.
No.
It's never been about action or fight scenes. It's always been about getting justice and locking them up and all the obstacles that get in the way of that.
Well, it's the emotional aspect as well, because Jessica Jones, out of all of the Netflix Marvel heroes, has always been the more unstable of them, I suppose. I mean, we have Iron Fist claiming he's the Iron Fist every other sentence, but in terms of, like, keeping her feelings in check and stuff like that, she's definitely the most feisty of the heroes, let's say. So it's easier to get under her skin. At least it tries to build up throughout this season that she's trying to withhold some of that and, like, control herself a bit more.
Yeah, I think that is a definite change you see in a character in this one. Like, in the past, there are times where she would have just beaten someone up for something, or there'll be times where the cops will tell her, don't do that thing, and she wants to do it, but she kind of holds back a bit.
You can tell she's itching for it.
Yeah, but she holds back. And that's kind of what this whole show is about, really. It's about her, like, becoming a hero, really. Because she always says, like, I'm not a hero, but by the end of this, she is a hero. Like, I think in this season, she discovers what it means to give a shit.
But yeah, the standout character of this season has got to be Trish.
Yeah.
And Rachel Taylor does, as usual, another great portrayal of the character.
Yeah.
And we go down a completely different route that you might have guessed at the end of Season 2, but
I don't think people would have seen the villain thing coming.
No.
Unless that's like a thing from the comics. I've never read a Jessica Jones comics, I don't know, but I would have thought she would have teamed up with Jessica, which obviously is what happens for a bit, but I didn't see it going down the path that it went.
Well, no, what I mean is that I don't think people will have, basically, as you said, seen her going down the villain route, but probably a villain, like, a darker route, but then come the end, she'll see the light at the end of the tunnel and try to improve her ways.
Yeah, even though it's too late for her now, because she's in the raft.
And they don't have a Season 4 to correct that.
No, so yeah, this is something like I said to you when we were watching it. When she beats up, is he called Dimitri?
Yeah.
I want to say Dimitri. Mm-hmm. When she beats him up and then the little girl walks in and she realises, like, oh shit, what I'm doing is bad, it affects other people. I thought that was going to be like where the line was for her, and she'd go, okay, now I know where the line is, and she was going to be good from there on out. But no, they went past that, and they played, you know, the whole season kind of plays with the idea like of what's the difference between a hero and villain and where is that line, which I thought was really well explored.
Well, it goes down the Dark Knight route of seeing, like, being the hero long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
Like, it literally takes that and just makes it its own thing. It's Marvel equivalent.
It is, yeah.
But it does a good job about it, and you can... It's not like how... I hate to make this comparison, but Daenerys on Game of Thrones...
No, I thought the same thing.
She just completely, like, over the course of, like, maybe 1 or 2 episodes, 180s.
This is how you do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can argue, like, she was being built up to it, but the way that Season 8 progressed, you didn't really get those necessary scenes so that when the character change did happen, it made sense.
Yeah.
Well, for this, it was one of those things where every episode touched upon it in some way, and so when...
It was a much more, like, gradual progression.
Yeah, so when things went down as it did, you weren't completely taken unawares. Like, you understand why it happened. It wasn't just completely out of the blue.
Yeah.
So that was done very well.
Yeah. Do you think if her mum hadn't been killed, she would have gone down that path?
It's hard to say, isn't it? I don't think so, but I think that was the whole point. It was just like... They touched upon it a couple of times where they said it's almost like a drug, it's addicting. Like, once you've done it once, it's like, you find it really hard to not do it again.
Yeah, well, she always said, didn't she, that she wanted to be a hero and she was kind of jealous because Jessica had powers and she didn't. So she would have become a hero in some capacity, but whether she would have gone around killing people, I would doubt.
Yeah. If anything, she should have probably just hunted down the Punisher and joined in, because he has no problem killing anyone.
So you could argue that Salinger created another villain in itself, like how the Joker creates Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight.
And that was his whole thing, though. He was never gonna be a physical threat, so he used his knowledge and manipulation to get at Jessica from an emotional standpoint.
Yeah.
Which I think when villains do that, they're so much more interesting than, say, at the end of Luke Cage Season 1, the bad guy turns out to basically be the mirror image of him, like, both power and strength-wise, and so it's just like, oh, great, they're hitting each other.
Yeah, I mean, a villain's strength should be the hero's weakness in general.
Yeah. It should. It's like the Joker in The Dark Knight, where he knows all of the weaknesses, so he knows what to aim for, and he knows how to bring out, like, the darker side of the hero.
Yeah.
To try and convert him to his ways.
Yeah. I will say, though, I thought it was a really well done arc, Trish becoming Hellcat and all that. But the line right at the end when she's in that sort of detention room and she says, "I'm the bad guy." Fucking knew that was coming. But yeah, when she says that, I thought that was like a tiny bit on the nose. Like, you could have said that with a look, and I felt like that would have been a little bit less. I don't want to use the word cringy, but, you know, there was a bit of me that went, we didn't need you to literally say the words, "I'm the bad guy."
Just in case you weren't aware, boys and girls.
Yeah, but that said, one of Jessica's final scenes when she sees Trish being taken off in the helicopter, there was a 2 or 3 second window, you know, when Jessica's looking through the bars, and Kristen Ritter goes through, like, a whole range of emotions in, like, 2 or 3, like, you can tell she feels, like, sorrowful, but, like, she's done the right thing, and she's, like, sad, and kind of, you know, she feels guilty and all that different stuff, all in the space of a couple of seconds, and you can just, but it's done subtly, but also really effectively, and I just thought that was a really good piece of acting.
Well, you get another scene similar to that. I'm not sure if you took complete note of it, but it's where she's in her apartment. It's after Trish's mum has died, and so she's basically mentally preparing herself for the funeral, and she just stares in the mirror for, like, a scene that must last for getting on for a minute, give or take, and she's just, like, stood there basically crying into the mirror, showing, like, that rare sense of vulnerability you get from Jessica Jones. And I think Kristen Ritter plays the character so well that you forget that there is this other side of her.
Yeah.
And so when these moments do happen, it really hits you, like...
No, I didn't notice that. I must have been writing my notes down, but...
You're on your phone.
But what I will say as well about Kristen Ritter is the lines that Jessica Jones has, she comes across as a bit of an arsehole. You know, she's got that cold exterior and she's sarcastic and stuff. And it'd be like, on the page, I feel like you could even dislike her character, but I think it's the vulnerability that she's hiding behind those lines, and you can see it, like, in the flicker in her eye and stuff sometimes. I think that's why you like her, because you know that deep down...
Yeah, she's putting on a front.
Yeah.
Like, she's trying to be strong for other people.
But I think there's a lot of actors, and actresses out there who wouldn't be able to do that quite right.
Malcolm has one of those arcs where it does make me question whether this was made with the full knowledge that it was going to be the last season. Because it effectively ends with him not getting back together with his girlfriend and basically hooking up with a hooker.
Yeah, that's why they're called hookers.
And so you'd think like, well, that's kind of a bittersweet ending.
Yeah, he got screwed a bit, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, got a blowjob. Yeah, well, Jessica gave him the keys to Ailey's investigation, so there's that. And he did get a redemption arc, obviously he left / got fired, and he sort of admitted that he'd done bad things and stuff, but I always really liked the character of Malcolm, and I would have liked to have seen him do a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get that the focus is obviously on Trish and Jessica and catching Salinger, but I don't know, I always like his character.
Compared to season 2, he definitely took more of a backseat role. He was in it a fair bit, but
yeah,
in terms of his contribution to the season, it was very minimal until probably the last couple of episodes.
Yeah,
where he rejoins the team.
And speaking of which, I think one of the only things that we didn't really like that much about this season was the Jerry Hogarth storyline.
Yeah, that was a bit...
Any time her scenes came on, I felt myself getting a little bit bored.
Yeah. It was just weird watching her character become this almost, I guess, a villain. Like, at times I thought she was going to end up being like an antagonist. Oh, I can't fucking say it. An antagonist. There we go. For like Jessica Jones and Hellcat. But she just ends up being like a complete mishmash of different like emotions, and
we didn't see her die either, did we?
No, she doesn't die. but she... Ooh.
I really thought when they said about, oh, can you take the place of Trish and take the fall since you're dying anyway, I really thought they were going to do that, and I was like, oh, that would be so good. And I'm equally happy and sad that they didn't, because I'm glad that they went down the sort of, like you were saying, the unpredictable route of not doing what would have been the most obvious thing to do. Mm-hmm. But also, I feel bad that Trish's story ended the way that it ended.
Yeah, I mean, Disney always have this opportunity down the line to maybe do a continuation of it on their own streaming service, but I really doubt that all the actors will want to come back after this 2-year period of time that Netflix says Disney can't touch it.
It really is such a shame. I've read into it a little bit, and from what I can tell, it seems like Netflix basically cancelled them to spite Disney. That's what I've got. I might be wrong, but that's what I've got from the little bit of research I've done. But like Daredevil and Jessica Jones in particular are 2 shows. Well, and Punisher as well. Those 3 shows, I hate the fact that they've been cancelled.
Yeah, it is a shame, and we went into this not really thinking it was the final season, but definitely towards the end there was almost this sense of finality where we all of a sudden came to this like epiphany that we had like 2 more episodes to go, and then that was it.
Yeah, we said, didn't we, season. When we watched the penultimate episode, we were like, I don't want to watch the last episode because then it's done.
Yeah, I mean, you still have like a couple of seasons to watch, as do I.
Yeah, I haven't watched any
of it. But knowing that after this there was going to be like no return to this MCU Netflix world was really bittersweet.
Not even bittersweet, just bitter for me anyway. I think what I would say is,
I'd say it was bittersweet because at least we ended it on a good season.
Yeah, I was going to say I think both Daredevil and Jessica Jones had really strong 3rd seasons.
Yeah.
So
thankfully,
at least they ended on a high note. I was going to say as well, Kristen Ritter directed episode 2 of this season, and before I watched the show, I knew that she had directed an episode, but I didn't know which one. And so I didn't know that she directed episode 2 till after I'd watched it. But nothing stood out to me as being bad. Like, it seemed just as good as any other episode. And it reminded me kind of the pilot of Breaking Bad, how it starts at the end and then you go back in time and find out how it leads to that point. Yeah. Well, she was in Breaking Bad as well, so there's a nice little weird tie-in. So yeah, I thought Kristen Ritter did a good job of that. Eric as well is one of the new characters in this season, and I think it took me about 10 episodes to realise that I liked him. The whole time I was like, there's just something about him that I feel is a bit dodgy. I'm not sure if I like him.
Yeah, his presence is very inconsistent as well, because he's there for quite a lot in the first third, and then he kind of just disappears.
For about 2 episodes, isn't he?
Yeah, for like 2 to 3 episodes, and then he comes back again.
Yeah.
But we didn't even realise at first, but he was based off of a guy called Mindwave from the comics.
Yeah.
And so...
Which there's one picture of on the whole
We found like
internet.
one good picture of him, and it just makes me realise that anyone who goes into the comics with a yellow suit is not going to get the same treatment in the live action performance. They always wear black or leather, just as a method of saying, no, these guys can be cool too.
Well, you even called it when Trish is like going through her outfits, and there's the black and yellow one, and she goes, hell no, and you were like, I bet that's the one that she wears in the comics.
Yeah, and it was the mostly closely resembled, yeah.
Yeah. Something I've always loved about Jessica Jones is, even though the first few episodes always seem to be quite slow, I don't mind, because I love the atmosphere of it. Like you were saying, it kind of reminded you of like the film noir thing, and it has like that kind of detective atmosphere and the jazz music in the background. And
it's a nice callback to the 40s and 50s noir style, which is probably the most, like, it helps this kind of season stand out from the other MCU seasons.
Yeah,
which is good.
I'm hoping that they kind of go down, well, they've said they're going to go down that kind of route for the Batman, so I'm excited to see how that works out.
That'll be cool.
Yeah. A small critique, really, but I know Jessica Jones isn't action-centric, and I don't mind that at all. I actually love that it's not. But when there is a fight scene, it would be nice if it was a little bit better choreographed. Like, I can't help but hold it to the standard of Daredevil, and I know there's never going to be an 11.5-minute single-take fight scene in Jessica Jones, but they could be a little bit more impressive.
Yeah, she's very basic in terms of her fighting style.
She'll just throw someone up into the ceiling and then
she'll either throw them, push them.
Which, I mean, it's in character, because she's not the kind of person to be showy. She just wants to get out of the way. But I'd like to see a good action scene.
They even showed that they could do it, because Trish was doing all these flips and stuff.
Yeah, so they had the potential to do it.
Yeah, but then when it came to her fighting Jessica at the end, you didn't really get that. She landed a few kicks, but then she got ass handed to her for the majority of it. So
did we rate a show out of 10 or not? I don't really know what my
we
number
can rate
would be.
the season out of 10. Yeah.
Okay. I would say 7 or 8, something like that. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'd say probably an 8.
Yeah, I could go for an 8, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, all in all, good season. We recommend that you watch it.
It's a nice...
I guess you'd have to have watched it to be watching the spoiler review and got this far, but...
It ties up the MCU Netflix seasons very nicely. You know, it leaves a nice taste in your mouth.
Cheeky.
Hey, Trish.
I'll leave a nice taste in your mouth.
Oh, dear me.
Anyway, don't forget to like this video if you've enjoyed it. It really does help us out.
Let us know what you thought in the comments below.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see where people rank this among the other Jessica Jones shows, and if it's I think it's generally been quite well received, but
from what I've read,
yeah.
Subscribe if you enjoyed. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.